That is Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company. Welcome to the show, sir. Before we come to our conversation about water and sanitation, for starters, you are a farmer. Yes. Looking at the announcements and pronouncements that were made yesterday by the president, what does that mean to farmers?
Yeah, I think, I want to say that Kenya is actually going places. Kenya is at a take-off stage. And what the president has done, if you go to the farming areas in the North Rift, there is going to be pamba harvest. I'm one of the farmers and my maize is doing good. I was part of the farmers who registered for the subsidized fertilizer and I got it on time. I planted, we thank God also for the rains. Some of these reforms the president is doing in the agriculture sector is going to increase the agriculture sector share of GDP, and I think is going to help the country in terms of food security. And I can say Kenya is actually in the right direction.
How about the argument about especially the large-scale farmers? Because I understand, for a staple like maize, we heavily depend partly on large-scale farmers in the country, but generally the food that we eat as a country is from small-scale farmers. But the issue about the cost of fuel going up, is that a huge concern for farmers?
I think we need to look at the whole production inputs. Mm-hmm. Once we address the issue of fertilizer, which is one of the biggest contributor to the cost, and we address the fact that the country now has opened a lot of roads into our farms, I don't see fuel becoming an impediment once a lot of these other issues have been sorted. And as we focus on also value addition, I think if farmers are put in cooperative societies, what I'm seeing is happening currently, and then now marketing of their produce, value addition, good storage facilities that is also being provided by the government. In the long term, I don't see fuel becoming an impediment.
Okay.
Of course, it's one of the inputs to it. I also have a tractor and I've been offering services to farmers. What I know is that despite the price increases, the increase of that service to farmers is actually marginal. It's not changing a lot. So, and therefore, it might not affect.
Okay. So, lastly, before we go to our discussion, does that mean, because we've had also the challenge of when we have a bumper harvest, now you as farmers start demanding for fair prices in regards to your maize, and you normally cite back the cost of production. So if there is a good supply, I think Kenyans enjoy and they get maize at an affordable rate. But there's also that risk of farmers withholding and saying, this is a little bit too cheap. How do we counter that?
I think it's about the margin. If you reduce the cost of production, then you increase on profitability of the same. So it can be 3,500, but still the cost of production was lower. So the farmers will still fetch higher prices. But I think this is a conversation that we need. Despite Definitely. The fact that there is a pamba harvest in Kenya, there will be a deficit, which means after we buy the crop from farmers, there will be a bit of importation. But I think it's something that will be addressed in the next 2 years to 3 years, and our farmers will start.
So you feel it's a long-term kind of engagement?
For the real benefit to be achieved, I think it's going to take 1, 2, 3 years for the farmers to be able to realize commercialization. What is happening currently is that the government is trying to, learn farmers to become commercial, to embrace the issue of commercialization, the issue of storage, the issue of warehouse receipting system, so that farmers are able to actually get the minimum, the right price, not the minimum, but the right price for their commodity. Also, there is this advice to farmers for diversification. Now we're looking at high-value crops. As we look at the cash crops, we're also looking at the high-value crops. And I want to tell you that the smallholder farmers holds key to Kenya's food security.
Okay.
Yep.
Definitely. Herbicides and
I'm one of the smallholder farmers.
You're one of the smallholder farmers. The other inputs, herbicides, for example, to deal with weeds and whatnot. That is also we've seen also animal feed producers also calling for a moratorium.
I think what we need to do as a country is to continue subsidizing our farmers. We continue providing the extension services. Why we have inadequacy in terms of animal feed is because we are not used to producing animal feed. So if we encourage more farmers to produce, if we encourage more farmers to add value to what gets out of their farms, I think we should be able to address some of these challenges in the medium term. And I think the president is in the right direction. The country is in the right direction. We just, all of us, need to embrace and see what we can do ourselves on how we can improve some of these aspects.
Okay. Now, topic of discussion today, you know, we're talking about water, sanitation, and urbanization. Because the country is growing, cities are coming up very fast. And that comes with an extra challenge of proper infrastructure to make sure that those cities are livable. Now, you come from Eldoret. I don't know whether it's the same situation, because Nairobi, there's always that argument. This city was never built to accommodate this many people.
Yes.
And even now, people are happy because, you know, people are opting to stay at the outskirts of Nairobi, because there are now better options. For Eldoret, so far the infrastructure, especially the water and sanitation infrastructure that was built for that city and which is also continually being built, is it serving the people of Eldoret as it should?
One thing about water and sanitation, we need to realize that the rate of population is increasing more than the rate of connectivity or expansion of the water pipelines and sanitation pipelines. The reason being that water and sanitation is a capital-intensive venture. It requires a lot of money to build dams, to build pipelines. In Eldoret, we have as old pipes as before independence. And our coverage in terms of water is about 78%. And then coverage in terms of sanitation is about 35%. And I think with the ongoing projects of last mile, we are likely to increase our coverage to close to 85%, of course, with that aim of having 100%. But you need to know that Eldoret currently is being considered to become the 5th city of the Republic of Kenya. And the area coverage of the city will expand, which means the indicators I'm talking about in terms of water and sanitation will actually drop a little bit. But this new concept of public-private partnerships in the water and sanitation sector is really helping our cities or our urban centers in terms of, you know, building new dams, in terms of putting in place, you know, new technologies in terms of pipelines, in terms of even, you know, digital meters. And we are seeing that as Eldoret, we are becoming one of the examples to be looked at in terms of digital transformation in the area of the water sector.
Okay.
Perhaps to just say that with the introduction of the PPP, His Excellency the President has actually granted us the development of the Two Rivers Dam, which is going to give Eldoret about 74,000 cubic meters of water.
Okay.
And also maybe the completion of the Kipkaren treatment works. So we are seeing that with this involvement of the private sector, either, you know, domestic direct investments or foreign direct investments, Kenya is likely to meet its obligations when it comes to the Agenda 2030.
Okay. While the pipes are being laid, you're saying, you know, some pipes are 60 plus years. Yes. In a standard, in an ideal scenario, how fast or how often should we replenish water infrastructure, especially in a city? For example, let's take a look at Nairobi, how complex Nairobi is.
Yep.
How often should this be done?
Actually, with the new technologies, the old technologies of water pipelines and sanitation, I think would not last as long as the current ones. Currently, we have new piping technologies. It's called HDPE pipes, which can last over a century, over 100 years, yes. So, and that's why there's a lot of programs and projects currently in the Republic where these pipelines are being replaced. In Eldoret, we are looking at you know, in addition to the construction of the Two Rivers Dam, you know, replacement of over 40 kilometers of pipelines, which have actually been there for the longest. And you know that these old pipes are not good in terms of durability, and therefore, you know, because of how they are, they contribute to what we call non-revenue water. The replacement with the new technologies, we've done some in part of the town, like a place called Kipkorgat, southern part of Eldoret town, and in the central, near the central business district, somewhere we call Kenyari. And with the new technologies of pipelines and also the ones for smart meters, we've been able to reduce water loss up to 5%.
Okay.
Yeah, and the country benchmark is about 25%. So you can see, if we can be able to attract
Yes.
and bring on board, public sector funding, private sector funding, and there are innovations also in funding.
Yes.
Like now, as Eldred Water, we are currently talking with the Nairobi Securities Exchange for a water bond, which we are hoping that probably by December, the bell will be rung.
All right.
So these innovative approaches of resource mobilization is likely to bring, Kenya targets to fruition or to reality.
All right.
Because what we need currently in the water and sanitation sector is funding. We need new technologies.
Okay.
We need partnerships.
Okay.
And we need, collaboration.
Definitely.
And then also there's an introduction of new concepts in terms of conservation.
And I know we're going to go deeper into some of those sectors, and my antennas now are even higher in regards to water bond by elders. That's an interesting concept. And just recently, the Central Bank of Kenya launched their platform, DAO, Central Securities Depository, that people can use their funds to sort of buy bonds. So utilizing that technology and you guys coming on board, it could be a quite interesting thing. But we want to take a short break. We have Mr. Peter Biwott, who's the Managing Director, Elders, with us in studio talking about investment in water and sanitation. We take the break, we return with more. Stay tuned.